we are back on day 3 already of the Life Week number 2. Welcome on this day of cloud. But before we go into cloud, there is something which has a lot to do with cloud. It's DevOps. And you believe it or not, yesterday there were the women in AI, and today there are the women in DevOps. I haven't seen all of you already check out what we have tomorrow on the program, because tomorrow there will be a happy hour or after hour. Basically, it's depending on where you live. Bring your own coffee or booze or whatever and join in. And this will be tomorrow. Make sure to register on the webpage so we know who will be coming. Oh my God, it's too early. Sorry, only 3 coffees already. So before we head into that, the next topic, what I want to say, is, of course, there is something you expect me to do at the beginning, and it's the code of conduct. It's the thing where I always say behave or... But there is a nice version, and now I'm gonna play it to you because there is a video. So here I am again, and now you are just a few seconds away from the importance of a diverse workforce. If you have no clue what I talk about, imagine yourself working with yourself, so no opinions, no everything the same with the people. You do not want that, and this is why we have this nice Women in DevOps talk workshop mix, and I will roll the intro and then we'll start it. Have fun, enjoy, see you later. Can you hear me? Yeah, now you're live.
Good morning, folks, or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world today and whatever time you are watching. Thanks so much for tuning in to this morning's presentation on the importance of having a diverse workforce. My name is Antonia Otter. I am the DAC ambassador here at Women in DevOps, and we're a global non-for-profit community built to empower, inspire, and diversify the technology world, one meetup at a time. I'm extremely lucky today to be joined by the founder of Women in DevOps, Lauren. Please feel free to introduce yourself as well, Lauren.
Thanks, Antonia. Yeah, pleasure to be here. I am the founder of Women in DevOps. Oh, and I've lost my headphone already. I founded Women in DevOps in 2017 to really drive diversity within what at the time was a very male-dominated industry, and made some really good inroads. We're going to touch on that in this presentation, and hopefully you're going to walk away from this with both earphones in my ears, but also with a better idea of why a diverse importance is just so important to your team and your product.
Exactly. So thank you so much, Lauren. So I guess a question that I would love to pitch to yourself, Lauren, is can you name 5 leading women in tech? Or could you 5 years ago as well?
No, I mean, I can now, but only because I've worked in this space for so long. This is an interesting question. And the reason why I wanted to include this today is we did a similar presentation in Brazil a few years ago and literally asked this question. And not a single person in an audience of 250 DevOps engineers raised their hand. Not one. So I think it's really important. There are some really great role models in tech, but the main names are men. Your Jeff Bezoses of the world, Bill Gates, for example, etc. So no, I can't name it, and that's got to change ultimately.
Yes, exactly, and that is why we're here today, because we need to move forward and promote great names beyond Mark Zuckerberg or Tim Cook or Bill Gates as well. So Lauren, I would absolutely love it if you could give a little bit more insight to how women in DevOps came to fruition.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to throw it back a few years. It's 2017, and I don't know where our audience is based, and I know we're spread all over Europe, but at the time in London, it was like the start of the meetup scene, which is great, right? Having this tech community within London was fantastic. But I'd go to meetups to learn, it could be anything from Kubernetes or native to Docker, a lot of infrastructure as code or serverless at the time. And it was just me and a bunch of dudes. Continuously, it was just me and guys, right? And I knew that wasn't necessarily the truth because my background is DevOps recruitment and I had female candidates. So I couldn't understand why. And I dug a bit deeper, and it was this general theme of DevOps engineers, pizza, and beer. And I wanted to create a platform where no matter how you identify, your gender, your status, whatever that might be, you could contribute to that DevOps community. You could ask those questions. You could bounce ideas back and forth. And when we started, our first meetup, about 13 of us, and now we're about 4,000 members globally. So we've come on such a journey, and we've learned so much. And we're supporting Black African Americans, we're supporting the LGBTQ plus community. It's not just about gender anymore. It's truly about having diversity within the DevOps community, and I'm really proud of where we've come. So yeah, we've come a long way. And when I look back, I think, gosh, we've got a long way to go. But yeah, that's the journey that Women in DevOps has been on so far. And it's like events like today, partnering with WeAreDevelopers, which makes us feel like we're really starting to make some impact now.
Yep.
Within the DevOps community, for sure.
Yep. And I can always look up to you as an inspiration for how much you've done for our community as well, and how much you are still doing. So it is awesome.
Oh, thank you.
We do seek to represent all underrepresented groups within the whole tech space as well. It's super important to have a diverse workforce, which we will come on to very shortly and go forward. So I guess it's no shock to anyone, wherever you are in the world, that there is a huge imbalance of characters and personalities and gender and backgrounds within technology and engineering. It's been a long-standing challenge and globally, and there's still a long way to go. Something that always shocks me is that there are actually more men within the Western world called John leading major companies than women at all. Oh, and this needs to change. We need to be able to empower and inspire diverse members to get in to leading and senior positions. Diversity. Oh, go on.
I was just about to say that I love that statistic, right? I think it's really important when thinking about not just at engineering level, but at engineering lead, CTO, wider software teams. And I'm pretty sure it was PwC that came up with that statistic.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's terrifying that there's more guys called John, right, than there are female leaders. And I think, it's not just about having diverse teams, but it's creating teams for the future as well, and really future-proofing our teams. And what we want to aspire to be in kind of 5, 10, 25 years, and really working towards that. And it's quite a mind shift to think, okay, I need a diverse team now, right? Because your team isn't diverse, you're building biased algorithms, biased products, but also what that growth needs to look like. Because I really hope that we're sat here in 10 years' time, and hopefully I haven't got any grey hair by then, but I suspect I will. And we're having a very different conversation about the diversity at CTO level or head of DevOps level. So hopefully that sticks with some of the people listening today.
Yes, please promote diverse people into your teams, because they will be leading you to success later. But yeah, diversity and inclusion is about embracing and empowering people by respecting and appreciating what makes them different. So, as Lauren said, not just gender diversity, but age, ethnicity, religion, disability, culture, sexual orientation, educations, and background. We need all these different trains of thought together to make products that beat the norm, essentially. So a quick Google search as well shows us historically how undiverse and uninclusive technology still is, which is what we're here to seek to improve as well. And although even more weight has been given towards increasing diversity within tech, even the top 8 global tech companies, so your Amazons, your Twitters, your Facebook, your Apple, your Google, your Microsoft, women do not even make up a third of the technical teams, leadership roles, or even half of the workforce, which I think is crazy when you think of the workforce. Of course, the tech team, they always seen as the brains behind, but we need marketing people to get it out there, to get it to the right teams. We need HR as well to ensure there is a happy workforce. There are tons of wheels in this cog to bringing these companies to success. So I do actually find it crazy as well that we're not even making up 50% of the overall workforce. Anything to add to that, Lauren?
No, I mean, this chart speaks for itself, to be honest. I mean, obviously we're going to go on to like how we tackle this problem, but I love seeing infographics like this that really just kind of spell it out of like, this is how big the gap is. And actually, our colleague and one of my co-founders, Francesca Pollard, she is doing a panel discussion today, actually at 10 a.m. around kind of the importance of HR actually and kind of their impact in this piece of the puzzle. So it's interesting that you mentioned that, Antonia. I think this will tie in very nicely with her talk. So if that kind of piece really interests you, then definitely check out her speech as well.
Yeah, super important. We're all in this together. So in terms of, I guess, where the problem stems from, we always talk about STEM, so science, technology, English and maths being studied at school, and there are definitely, in the UK at least, there are initiatives trying to get more females or underrepresented groups into STEM, but still, just by looking at the statistics, and again, these are from PwC, as women are making their way up the education piece, the number of them in the STEM space is dwindling, essentially. Our research has shown that there are a number of different reasons for this. One of the main reasons for this is actually there's a lack of information and education around what technical roles actually entail. So what this actually means when you're behind a computer. I'm actually quite embarrassed to say I'm university educated. It wasn't until around 18 months ago before I started working at Soda, and I obviously knew what coding was, but it was behind the screen, but I never really made the link between computer science being the Instagram app that I'm using on my phone. I didn't really understand what computer science, GCSE or A-level was. It didn't even cross my mind. And I guess I could have definitely educated myself. But at the time when I was 11 years old, I was just like, don't know what that is. Okay, let's move on. So that's something that I can really relate to as well, especially working and speaking to professionals within the DevOps space day to day. Now, On top of this as well, which is something quite obvious to us all, there are a lack of diverse role models within the technology space. This only reinforces the perception that technology careers may not necessarily be for us. When we get to that small 3% that do have tech as their career first choice. Now, when it comes down to hiring, and we have a lot of experience of this, referral hiring is great. You have people that are invested in your company. People who are doing well in your company are going to know people that are doing well in your company, right? But when we think about pipeline, only people entering your talent pipeline all have similar backgrounds and experiences because they're referred by people who are already in your company. And this is completely not what we actually want to make sure that we're achieving unbiased algorithms and unbiased products as well. When you refer someone, we talk about unconscious bias a lot, and we grow up with these unconscious biases around us and we may not even realize that we have them. So when you meet someone that is similar to you, you're more likely to have a natural affinity to them, more likely to want to hire them. But this means that the gap within the diversity never improves, and we're always hiring people that are similar to us as well. So there needs to be a lot of training on unconscious bias, and just referral hiring is great, but it's not great for diversity. I don't know if you have anything to add there, Lauren.
Yeah, just, there's obviously a multitude of contributors, right, to this gender gap within technology, and it's so hard, and education is just one small one, but evidently, we're losing 61% from that potential candidate pool down to 3%. So we're all responsible. Every single human, I think, is responsible for driving diversity and inclusion in every walk in life, not just technology. But I think everyone, especially within the tech community, really needs to pull together to be a role model. And if you're a 16-year-old right now thinking about their future, thinking about university, and a quick Google search shows you just essentially white male men, where's your role model? Who do you aspire to be like? Who can you draw similarities with? So you're absolutely right, Antonia, when we talk about kind of referrals and hanging out with people who are just like us. And again, that's part of the contributing problem there. And how do we diversify that? How do we break that down? And this could be a 6-hour presentation on exactly how to do that. But I think what we wanted to do today was really kind of just welcome the problem, touch on that, and really hopefully provoke those listening, developers or CTOs or whatever your role might be in the tech communities, to really recognise this. And this isn't an old thing, this isn't new, but sometimes it just needs a bit of a harsh reality. And imagine what could have happened if we retain those 61% into a first choice tech career. It could be in a very different spot as some of our kind of mainstream products. So it's very interesting, and again, I hope we're having the same conversation 5 years time and this looks very different.
Yeah. We can only hope. Yeah, can you imagine if we had retained all that 61%, maybe we wouldn't be here today, and that wouldn't be a bad thing. But I guess another thing that we've spoken about a couple of times throughout this presentation now is biased products and biased algorithms. And I think it would be a good idea for us to give you some examples of what we know being on the market where products and algorithms have been biased and not taken in consideration certain norms, actually. So I'll start. This one I find really interesting. So if any of European listeners are here, a very well-known gym chain in Germany is called McFit. And in the UK, we have a very similar one called The Gym. It's not
Creative.
not so creative, but there we are. So this is a very well-known budget gym group, but lots of people go, it's a great gym, nothing wrong with the gym. So a lady came into the gym, and how you can get into your changing room is with a scanned key code. And she kept trying to get into the changing room so she could do her gym session, and she couldn't get in. Who knows why, but could not get in. So they went down to the front desk, and they couldn't work it out either. Absolutely no idea why is her key not working. They tried to give her another one, it wasn't working. Not a great first day to starting at the new gym, right? But these things happen sometimes. So anyway, they escalated the issue back to the tech team, and what they found out is this lady was actually a doctor, and the tech team, a doctor had only been coded up as being able to be a male, which is obviously not all an accurate representation of
Not at all.
of the world that we live in at all. So yeah, it's just when you look back to that group who were designing the tech, it was in the end a group of similar people, similar males. And we think if we had a bit more diversity within that team, someone could have stand up on one sec, come on women, they're doctors as well. Where's this little piece of nugget of information gone wrong? And I guess that's not the best experience that she's had in that new gym. Lauren, I know you had something as well that was quite interesting.
Yeah, well, I think it's a very, very basic example, right? But I think it just screams how the smallest slip-ups can make big effects. Like, what if that was a plane? You know, just to be ridiculous, right? Abstract, okay? Imagine that key card was a pilot, right? And you're flying a plane, and that pilot, for a reason, can't access a really important room or can't override something because something's coded up wrong because that's a female pilot. Like, the possibilities are endless, and quite frankly, it's scary. Really, really scary. And you know, it's not just about kind of the obvious of male and female either. So when you think about diversity as well, like cognitive diversity is really important. So something that I'm really big on is kind of empathy and the different layers a diverse team can bring. Again, I'm losing my headphones. I apologise.
These things happen.
These things do happen when it's 3:20 in the morning in Florida.
Yeah, we've not mentioned Lauren is actually in Florida on her vacation at the moment. So thank you for being here.
No, my pleasure. So, yeah, so this is a very sad story, but again, very kind of telling of the layers of makeup that a diverse team make up. So I don't know if anyone remembers this, but about 6 years ago, about 7 years ago, Facebook released a feature called Your Year in Review. That feature is still live, but you now choose what to publish and when to publish. It's non-automated posting. And it's really sad that this particular Facebook user unfortunately lost his daughter to a brain tumour. She was super young, I think she was 6 or 7 in the April. And Facebook published your best moments of 2013, your best moments of 2013, and it was all populated to pictures of his young daughter. And it automatically posted there were celebrations, balloons, you know, these happy moments. And of course, that was a heartbreaking moment. He didn't want to share those pictures at that time with such kind of distortion of how he was feeling about those memories. It was still so raw. But Facebook assumed that every memory was a happy memory. There was no empathy. There was no kind of layering of like, what do our users want? Where was the research? And that's, you know, just a very small example of understanding, you know, what your audience want and need and the makeup and the different emotions. And again, we look at that engineering team, all male men. So, you know, very small example again, but it's just the impact is real. These headphones are not ideal. The impact is real. So we won't dwell on that too much, but these daily challenges are only going to get worse, they're only going to get better. You know, the products, the apps we're seeing now, they're being built on legacy stuff. So it's only going to snowball into a much bigger issue.
Yeah. And I think as well, you hear a lot of these stories just working in the tech space as well. I'm shocked at all the different stories I hear all the time when it comes to like glitches in tech or oversights in tech. And then again, when we think as well, like human side, how people are treated, how people's views aren't quite listened to as well. So yeah, it is so important as well. And the former case studies do show just how homogeneous groups do create products that are biased and do have miscomings. And aren't fit for purpose. That memory story as well really shocks me as well, because it's horrible that he had to come back and relive that grief, but it was celebrated just by a miss of empathy, right? So like you said,
exactly that.
exactly. So cognitive diversity, super important. Group of individuals with different experiences and memories and backgrounds and educations and cultural perspectives. If you have them in a group together, you're going to generate a more inclusive product, and you're going to generate a lot more innovation and creativity, because you aren't all thinking the same way. So actually you've got to find something that works between all of your different amazing ideas as well, which is really actually exciting as well. When people see the world differently, you're going to have a product or an algorithm that appeals to a wider group of people as well. It's interesting because we looked at a Forbes study, and it shows that a group, when we think if you're a business owner as well, money is obviously going to be something relatively important to you. We live in a capitalist world, and groups and organizations that have more racial and gender diversity have 35% higher sales revenue, more customers, greater market share and profit compared to less diverse companies as well. Excuse me, losing my voice. But as we've said a million times, it is not all just about profit. It's about human beings, and it's our social responsibility to make sure that we're expanding borders. Like you said, Lauren, future-proofing as well, the world that we live in. So, yeah, another question as well. What do you think to this? How much more money would Bill Gates have made if he'd founded Microsoft with a more diverse team?
Yeah, it's a good thought. I say it's up to 33% added to your bottom line for having a more diverse team. We're building better products, but it's more robust. You're bringing more to the table, and yeah, have a look at those sort of income figures. Add 33% to that. That's not just 10 or 20 billion dollars. It's a lot of money. So I think that's, even to your business leaders, even if they're just looking at the bottom line, hopefully that is enough to be the importance of diversity is way beyond kind of the social constructs and your bottom line, as you were saying. But it's crazy money.
Yes,
and it's the proof is there. And going back to the last slide of why diversity in technology, we didn't mention this at the start. We should have. Both Antonio and I both work for a recruitment company called Trust and Soda. I've been in the DevOps far too long now. I've been recruiting for DevOps engineers now for about 6.5 years. Hence the grey hair. And Antonio come up for about a year now. So between us, 7 years of recruiting diverse engineers in DevOps, we see this every day. This isn't just something we're reading about. This is something we're working with CTOs, founders, with all the way from your startups across London and Germany and the US, all the way through to your FTSE 100s and your household names. It's not an isolated incident at all. So if you wonder why Soda was on that slide, I just wanted to give some context to that.
Yeah, that is where we work as well for our day jobs. Okay, so awesome. So something really important as well is hopefully this presentation has inspired you. We've shown you the reason why you need to embrace diversity, but you also need to ensure that the spaces that you have are inclusive for diverse members, and also we have to think about how we can attract diverse members into your organizations, because the talent pool, we've shown you it's small, right? And we look at the Facebooks and the Microsofts, and they do, although they are nowhere near the representation they need, they do also hold quite a big market share of the diverse candidates, because they have got these programs in place to ensure. So something that I've noticed as well working in the DAC market, and I don't know if you've seen this a lot as well, Lauren, is lots of companies will pay for their employees to have a sports membership. They'll pay you a certain amount a month, and you can use that towards sport. Why don't you offer the same for childcare? There are so many people in this world who have kids who will want to learn and be juggling both. So in my eyes, childcare and sports are just as important. It's to give you a way of life where you can be doing the things that you want to do. We speak about this a lot in recruitment. It's the language that you use in your job advertisements as well. Really interesting. You may be looking for rock stars, but not everyone may think that they are a rock star. So you need to think about how people identify themselves. And if I see a company tell me they want another rock star, I'm like, I don't even want to be a rock star. So invest in unconscious bias training. This is super important. We grow up with unconscious biases around us. We don't know that they're, hence that unconscious part. I'm just rattling on here. It's really important to be able to recognize these biases around us, and it can take years, it can take months. It's not easy, but you need to ensure that everyone in an organization is having training around this to be able to alleviate them as well. You need to think about role models in your organization. Have you got diverse members in your senior leadership team as well, and for people to look up to as well? This is from junior all the way up to the board. It's super important just to have a diverse role models and having processes in place. So what we touch on, if you're looking at a purely monetary value, yeah, we've shown you how important it is to have diversity, but if you're not going to ensure that your organization is inclusive, there are safe spaces for anonymous feedback, you have a D&I training sessions, you're not going to retain these diverse people. They're going to go somewhere else that does have these basic offerings for them. So you need to be really passionate about it. I can imagine, Lauren, you may have something else to add here.
No, I guess that essentially just to kind of like wrap up this is like, okay, we need to get creative here. We're not reinventing the wheel or anything like that when thinking about your hiring plans and thinking about your retention strategies, but use the building blocks you've got, right? As Antonia said, think about the language you're using, use a free gender decoder if needs be. I think you'd be surprised by the impact that has. Kind of review kind of your recruitment strategy or your recruitment partners, what they're doing for you. So get creative, seek advice, use the resources. There's the internet, anyone from Women in DevOps, please reach out. We're more than happy to kind of help reshape that.
Yeah.
This list is endless. This is just scratching the surface of what you can be doing. But ultimately, this is just one step in the right direction. We've got a few more kind of topics to touch on. The rogue headphone again.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, just to echo what you said, it's important just to get behind it and not just think about now either, like future-proof your business. And role models don't necessarily need to be senior, right? You can celebrate success, I think, all the way, from internship all the way up. It's a little bit of a misconception, in my opinion, that role models have to be senior. Yes, it's important to have those senior leaders in there for aspirations, but you can still create a role model at a more junior level for sure.
1,000% agree with you there. So this part about opportunities, Lauren, I would love you.
Yeah, so creating opportunities within your organization, okay, for this thought leadership to create difference in opinions, whether this is going to be open tables, it's going to be a breakdown of your stand-ups, your scrums, your external communication on social media, the types of communities you're getting involved in, you're sponsoring, you're going to talk at. Increase the number of opportunities where you can connect with engineers, developers, QA tests, mobile, whatever that might look like, to engage. Because they're not always going to come to you, essentially. We need to be proactive. And everyone within the organisation as an individual needs to be proactive and needs to create opportunities to support this. Yeah. Essentially. Short and sweet.
1,000%. So this is what we say. you need to get smart. You need to be getting up to scratch. About 10 years ago, but we can start doing it now. It's fine. We're all working towards the shared goal, and it's like what I touched on before. Does your organisation allow for diverse members to be included? Have you got infrastructure and processes in place? Are your teams trained? Do you show open decision making? Are you hiring diverse members? Are you getting them into your pipeline as well and showing them that your organisation wants them within? Are you training people as well? Research has actually shown that people that have opportunities to learn and grow means they're more likely to stay with a company that, I hate saying, took a chance on, because I think that is a horrible word, but I'm probably thinking of more junior members at the beginning of their career when they are trying to break into that. If you feel like you've not had any good luck and you finally find somewhere that really respects you and wants you as part of that team, then you're going to want to stay there for the long run and give back that chance that you had, I guess. Anything from you, Lauren?
No, just be aware, be smart, get on top of your game.
Yeah. So a question that we certainly get very often here, which comes up time and time again, is companies saying, oh, we don't have any diverse people applying to our job advertisements. What can we do? And Lawrence touched on this already. You need to be doing outreach. It's not, and this is also another bit of our research. It's not just due to the smaller pool of diverse talent. Really interesting statistic from our community that we found is that when women are actually searching for jobs, they will only apply to a job advertisement when they feel like they fit 80% of the requirements. When we pose this question to men, this number goes down to 50%, which is crazy as well. So this is another reason why you're having a lack of diverse talent applying to your job advertisement as well. And then we've touched on this already as well. It's the retention part, retaining these diverse people within your teams. People who feel underrepresented need a great support system around them internally, a solid onboarding experience where they're meeting a number of different employees, so they feel included and they have people to talk to from the very get-go. Need to be able to ask questions in a safe manner without judgment as well. Something else that we think is really important is, do you as an organisation, do you offer back to work training for individuals who have been off of the pitch for a little while? Have you got both maternity and paternity leave, which is fair, giving time for parents to spend time with their newborns? Flexible working, work from home. I think COVID has shown us that we're all very capable of working from home and have a competitive edge. This is definitely something that needs to be offered as well. And fair and open compensation practices as well. That there isn't really a reason why this should be a bit of a taboo subject, really. We're all striving for equal pay. We should all be paid equally. So an open compensation practice is what we want, and exit interviews are super important for you to learn from. They absolutely must be taken seriously and acted upon. Anything from you, Lauren?
No, I don't think so. I guess, yeah, COVID has completely overthrown how we construct our teams, right? How we recruit, how we onboard, how we interview. And if anything, it's given businesses the opportunity to hire diverse talent that might not have been available before. Working mums who can work from home, flexible working hours. I shouldn't say working mums, sorry, working parents, because it's equally fathers or adopted parents or primary caregivers. All of these kind of role models need to be kind of accounted for, and it starts with a talent pipeline. Like, if your team isn't diverse at the moment, you need to hire. and you need to make sure that talent pipeline is solid. So my advice would be to work with a talent partner, someone like Justin Soder, a woman in DevOps, someone who has done this and proven they have done this for years, because if this is going to be new, you need to get this right first time, and there's room for trial and error, right? And just the putting that first step forward is so highly important. But yeah, it starts your talent pipeline. You've got to make sure that's robust enough.
Yep, 1,000,000%. And in my experience as well, I think completely owning it and saying we're not diverse anywhere we need to be, but we want to make that difference is so much better than pretending that you are diverse. You've just got to own it and be like, we're not where we need to be, but this is why we're making so much effort to try and achieve this. We recognise the importance. We should have been here already. You just need to own it, really.
I completely agree.
Yeah. So this part as well, I know that you know quite a lot about this education piece, Lauren.
It's literally a motto, right? It's just evolution for education, and I don't necessarily mean that from like an education standpoint, like with universities and schools. What I mean by this, and what Women in DevOps is building our mantra on, is we are all individual responsibility for kind of like sharing, for creating allies, for taking more junior members of our tech community under our wings, for calling out leaders who are biased, for educating everyone around us, our peers, our managers, our CTOs, our lecturers, our family and our friends, essentially. And this is going to be the quickest, most direct route to completely change this industry. Is educating others and holding ourselves accountable to a high standard when it comes to diversity and inclusion within technology.
Yeah, amazing. Something that I definitely forgot to mention right at the beginning of the presentation is that if you had any questions, please put them in the Q&A for the end, because there will be a 15 minutes Q&A. But yeah, I guess we've touched on this, what you can do as an individual, and this isn't a quick fix. You need to have a concrete plan in place. It does take time, it does take energy. You do need to have the resources and the training and the processes in place to get here, but set your goals, as sit down and know exactly where you want to be in 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 5 year, 10 year. You need to have that in place. Ensure you are going out and networking with diverse people who you do want to promote within your organization or bring into your organization as well. Personal development is huge. That is a huge reason why people change their roles. So ensure that personal development is clear, it's constantly growing for individuals within your organization. Be able to check yourself, challenge your assumptions. I will always recommend doing this unconscious bias training. It is crazy. We're always learning, all of us. There's so much that we can always learn. We are never finished learning. So take part in trainings, invest in trainings for your teams as well. And yeah, be disruptive and forward thinking. Be a pioneer. We're all just going to end up following. We need this diversity. It drives innovation. It improves your reputation as well. We've spoken about the monetary value of having diverse teams as well. And yeah, I implore you to take this seriously and hire great talent. Anything you want to add at the end, Lauren?
No, I think we've touched on a lot of points. By no means, we've just scratched the surface, and we could sit here for 6 hours, right, and take every single sentence we've discussed today into more detail. So I would just strongly advise anyone that wants to take this further, like check out Women in DevOps, get in touch with Antonia or I. There's so much to explore with this, and especially when it comes to hiring. As I said, I've been doing this for almost 7 years, Antonia 18 months, but been very focused on diversity and inclusion throughout Europe. So just be a role model, educate others, keep yourself accountable, and keep fighting. I'm very confident the next few years we're making some big steps, and I'm hoping that the DevOps industry is going to look very differently over the next few years, and I'm very, very excited to see it happen.
So I over the moon. So yeah, that concludes the end of our presentation. If there are any questions, I don't know if I can see them, but please pop them into the box.
I have some questions coming in. There is, for instance, Gary wants to know, what advice would you give for getting started with diversity and inclusion?
So my first point of call would be to create some small goals, right? Having a diverse team is a huge achievement. And I've seen very few companies across Europe and America be able to achieve, right? So I'd set small goals. So whether that's having a diverse talent pipeline for your upcoming engineering hires, or committing to supporting a small community locally or internationally, just to start raising brand awareness, but celebrate those small wins. And yeah, celebrate those small wins with your leadership team, with the wider employees. But yeah, my advice would be set small goals and really work towards something big, because otherwise this task can seem so thankless and so long and so unachievable.
I also think as well, probably didn't touch on this much, but it's the hiring of junior people and training them up. I have this conversation a lot, and people are like, well, we need someone really senior. I'm like, well, the talent pool is just so small. If you're really, really invested in this diversity piece, then you need to be willing to train these people up to success, and they will stay with you. They will be loyal to you as well. So I think a lot more weight needs to be put on being open to training people as well.
So then Anonymous asked a question which was also asked yesterday with the Women in AI. It's, can men join Women in DevOps?
Yes, we encourage it.
Yeah.
In fact, Women in DevOps wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for a very large handful of engineering leaders globally, from Google, from Facebook. Something we really encourage is this idea of mentorship and allyship. So, we're relying on men in powerful positions to help us get to where we need to be like, hey, in meetings, in our stand-ups, in our scrums, in our contribution to open source, to celebrate female and diverse achievements, right? So absolutely. And when, post-COVID, when things hopefully go back to normal, we usually have our turnout of, let's say, 150, at least kind of 45 of those big guys. So I'd encourage absolutely men to join Women in DevOps. We would welcome it.
Okay, thank you. And Leah said, from 64% of women, it decreased down to 3%. May it be women's self-choice as well, since they find jobs much more easily in areas of representation?
Yeah, it may well be that was free choice, but then I think we need to have a look behind those choices and why they made that choice not to go down that route. Is it because it didn't look accessible, or like it came to fruition, or they wanted to do something else? And as Antonio touched on, let's take Instagram for example. And also, like, tech doesn't need to be DevOps. That could be QA testing, mobile development. It could be product. There's so many different routes, and we need to make sure we're celebrating all of them to ensure that we're at least creating that access path, and that it's an attractive access path. And we need to do far more research to really understand what's happening. But if we can work on the attraction piece and the education piece and creating role models, I think we'll be in a much more clearer position to be able to make sort of guided decisions.
The next question is from Thomas, and it's, is there actually a difference between DevOps and development? The only female colleagues I ever had in 20 years were Scrum Masters or in QA. No female devs.
We hire for lots of them. They do exist, I promise. We have 4,000 community members within Women in DevOps globally. And I've placed many. Check out my LinkedIn recommendations if you don't believe me. But it is a diverse, it is more like slim pool, right? But there is thousands and thousands and thousands of female DevOps engineers and developers, but a big part of that is confidence and average tenure. Women don't tend to move jobs as much as guys tend to do, whether that's confidence or factoring, starting families, there's hundreds of different reasons, but a big part of that is confidence. And I hope that you do work with a woman very soon, because it's great and they bring so much to the table. Maybe you need to hire one. Maybe at this point you need to hire someone to join your team within the DevOps space for sure. And it's an amazing woman that can do some kick-ass stuff with Terraform.
And then anonymous, Lauren, do not give up. These headphones have to listen to this message.
I love that.
And then another anonymous, what might be more successful, implementing a diversity and inclusion strategy top down or bottom up?
I think both, but I do think top down, because you need everyone who is driving the organization forward to be completely invested. So when we even think of when we're doing interview processes as well, you have direction from your leadership above you. So if it's only the bottom down people trying to implement certain inclusive interview processes and you don't have the backup of the board, then how can you actually implement that properly going forward? I don't know, Lauren, what do you think of that as well?
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, like, bottom down is equally important, right? If leadership aren't on board, that, as I mentioned earlier, we're educating our management teams, our SLTs, our stakeholders. But yeah, ultimately, like, the CTO and the board need to be pushing this in every aspect of their growth. It should be part of their 2021 like contingency plan, for example. But ultimately, if management isn't at the forefront of their mind, then yeah, we should be pushing it. We should be advocates. We should be taking responsibility to drive that. But I think where the big change is going to happen is where your CTOs, your heads of engineering, your leads are pushing this at every angle. And I work with some really insane startups in like the San Francisco Bay Area. And recently seen a real difference when that is like number one for the CTO. And like, for example, I work with a company called Launch Darkly, and it's less that final shortlist is diverse. CTO is like, no, I'm not making a hire. So that's a powerful statement, and that's when powerful decisions happen.
So, and then another anonymous. Even if you do not mind money, diversity might also push forward people enjoying work. So I think that's more a comment, no, than a question.
Yeah, but it's a great comment, like, and it's great that those listening are recognizing that, and I hope,
Yeah. And the next one also looks like a comment. Apparently, this is also true in Austria for the top 100 companies. In this case, is it not shown, obviously, but still said. Okay, I think this refers to the first names. Yeah.
Yeah, I did see a statistic as well in the DACH region a few months ago, and I couldn't for the life of me find it. I was furiously typing in Google in German trying to find it, but I know there is a similar one as well, with the German name.
Yeah, maybe the first name then is Michael or something like this.
Yeah.
And then another anonymous. Oh my God, there's so many anonymous people. There is a free unconscious bias workshop by Microsoft, which kind of looks like it was created by a man, and then this kind of smiley. Yeah. And another anonymous. This is a nice one. This is because it's a question. When is a good time to start educating colleagues and how to educate them and not sound like a parent?
Now,
Boy, I think with
start now.
anecdotes as well, because you don't want to sound like you were droning on, but just telling the story about the lady who couldn't get into her gym changing room because of the tech, and telling stories to make them realize, like, oh, that's interesting. Why did that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Subconscious.
giving it some context. Like you can bang the drum, right? Of being like, oh, we need to hire women. We need to hire. We need to be mindful of transgender and religion and ethnicity. Give it some context. Like it's all well and good, saying it, but there's a whole ton of other case studies we didn't touch on. Like for example, like on your iPhone, and you have like the face recognition now. I think it was in Taiwan, like it didn't recognize female faces, for example, or like the color of certain people's skin, like crazy stories which like should just not exist in today's world. So
Yep.
please start now, start today. It would mean the world to me, even if just one person who listened to this webinar today had an uncomfortable conversation with their team, then all the work we've done for the last 4 years is worth it. So start today, and give it context. Get people to understand why it's so important. It's not just for so-called construct, it's for literally the future of our products and the apps that we use.
Yeah. And share things like these presentations as well. Be like, oh, this was really interesting. Skip to this part. I think you'd be really interested, and have an open conversation and see what they think about it as well. I think it has to be a dialogue instead of a one-way street, really.
Agreed. No.
Okay, and the last question is Tom, and he says, "Hi there, I'm curious, where did you take the graph from showing the numbers of Gates's, oh my god, better outcomes if he used diverse teams?"
The what's this?
The Gates, I think the Bill Gates, if he had diverse teams, he would have earned more money, and I think
the source should be on the image, Antonia.
Yeah, let me go back. This one?
Yes.
Oh, the source isn't on the image.
No,
we can share that with you. I believe this came from a PwC study. If you go to pwc.co.uk /women in tech, they did some really, really awesome studies. I think we pulled that off the same case study we used a couple slides back.
Yeah. I think this is actually his the revenue anyway, but it was just to show like it had gone up. But if it was a diverse team, how much more could that number have been, essentially?
Yeah, so we're kind of creating that idea of like, if that was diverse, how larger, bigger, increased could those numbers be?
Yeah. Anyhow, Tom says, "Great, thanks." Okay.
No problem, Tom. Thank you for joining us.
So, I think this sounds like he will try to take these numbers and convince more people to join the calls.
Oh,
hopefully.
Perfect.
Now we're out of questions for now, which is actually no problem because we will be back, I think, in a panel after a short break, because we need to further convince Lauren's headphones to stay in and get some coffee, everybody else. And I say thank you, Antonia, thank you, Lauren. It was
My pleasure.
a real cool talk.
Yes, and if anyone has any questions or wants any advice, please reach out on us. This is our information here. We're both very active on LinkedIn as well. We'll be more than happy to help.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us, Stefan.
No problem. This is what the tech world is for. There are these great inventions to amplify good causes and to join people and connect people, which is also WeAreDevelopers. Yeah. Use case number 1, connect peoples and companies. So see you right after the break. Bye.
Bye.
Where is it? So, I'm back after the break on this lovely day, and everybody is waiting on diversity in tech, how HR can be so powerful. A nice panel discussion I've been looking forward to. Let me say thank you at this moment to our partners who also make this possible. That's this event's partner, Digital Switzerland, and this day's partner, and also the partner who powers a little bit of this week, Helvetia. So while we are still waiting for some final preparations behind the scene, let me ask you a question. But I do not remember the question. Yeah. Now, it's a stupid question. Yeah. How many developers does it take to change a light bulb? You know the answer? It's 100. You might say, why 100? Because one developer changes the light bulb and 99 are clicking away the error messages. Why is it like this? Because you might say, yeah, it's a joke, but in reality, it's not really a joke. Yeah, it's something because the tech team might not have been diverse enough to really think of all the stuff which is there. So how can we change that? And who changes it actually? Of course, it's the people who are in tech, but it's also the people who make us come into tech, make us join companies. And that's HR, and this is what the next panel is about. Let me jump a little bit backstage and see if they are ready. So I will hand you over to the loop again, but I haven't forgotten you. We will be right back. By the way, and I will show you my favorite commercial again. I love it since Monday. My favorite one.
Your app just crashed. It was struck by a hammer manufactured in 2005 by Harry's Hammers. The hammer's head is composed of 75% nickel, 20% steel, and 5% iron. Curiously, a hurricane just came down in Iran.
Yeah.
Morning,
Morning,
I am
folks.
again.
I'm Francesca, the co-founder of Women in DevOps, and this is our first panel event in collaboration with WeAreDevelopers. So thank you for joining us. We established Women in DevOps in 2017, specifically to address the issue of gender imbalance in the DevOps and tech industry. Our aim is to help close the gender gap by empowering women to create innovative solutions, encourage organizations to retain women into their tech communities, and to promote gender equality. We are so incredibly proud of how far our community has come, and we now have 4,000 followers globally, and this now also resulted in this incredible partnership with WeAreDevelopers. This morning, I'm going to be chatting with Kate, Nancy, and Anna, and we'll be discussing diversity in tech and how HR can be so powerful. So ladies, I'd love to introduce you. Anna, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I can start. I was thinking that maybe I will be the last one, but okay, let me start. So I'm working for WeAreDevelopers as a talent management director, and my two areas of expertise are tech recruiting and improving the company performance through people. So in the past years, I'm really passionate about bridging both recruitment and technology, aiming at securing a better job seeking and hiring experience for developers. And for those who do not know WeAreDevelopers, let me also briefly introduce my company. We are actually, our goal is to partner with developers and to help them grow both personally and professionally. On one hand, we connect developers with selected companies to help them find their dream job. This is part of our recruiting and job board services in the tech industry. And on the other hand, we secure the network. Maybe some of you know that WeAreDevelopers is known for organizing the world's largest congress attended by 10,000 developers, and this is something that we really miss after Corona crisis came. So now we are hosting different live events where we invite speakers, opinion leaders, and inventors from the tech industry, and we give the opportunity to the developers to get in touch and to have a closer cooperation and closer discussions with such people. So this is briefly from me.
Amazing. Kate, would you like to also introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I am currently pursuing a PhD in computer science. I'm also in Switzerland, so I'm located in Zurich. I'm also a co-organizer for Women in Machine Learning and Data Science. We're a nonprofit organization, so our Zurich chapter. And our mission is to support and promote women and gender minorities who are practicing, studying, or interested in machine learning and data science. So not really from the HR point of view, I'm more here from like the talent perspective and technical perspective. But yeah, it's a little bit from me.
Amazing. Nancy, would you also like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Francesca. I'm Nancy Nemes. I like to call myself a business and digital Darwinist. We can talk about that later. But in real life, I am the founder of Human Eyes, which is an initiative to make artificial intelligence inclusive and diverse through education, inclusion, and diversity, as it says. And we feature over 120 AI deep tech experts, and we jointly working to educate, reach, and join 20 million humans, of which 10 million are women, with AI in Europe by 2023. I'm also the founder and curator of Human Eyes, which is about activating your AI mindset. This is a top European advisory and exchange platform for AI and humanities. Very important to create those bridges. And previously, I spent about 18 years, I believe, working for Microsoft and Google in various global leadership positions. They are high-tech companies. I was always more in the management side, not necessarily deep tech, but marketing, sales, business development, general management. And I just want to tell you about my book, which is called The Proust Questionnaire. It was published this year in February, and the subtitle of that book is artificial intelligence in a stunningly diverse way. So that's me.
Amazing. So it would be really, really great to hear from each one of you what D&I means to your companies and how you are standing out from the crowd. So I don't know who wants to start that.
I can start if you want, just to, in the interest of time. So, I mean, let's make it really real. So first of all, diversity begins with you, with me. I am diverse, you are diverse, you are unique. No two humans are alike. Of course, we have definitions of D&I that we use in the HR space, but we can't pretend we have a uniform workplace if we know that every human being is special and unique. Now, if you want to define what D&I is really, that to me, it means similarities and differences. So both of them among employees in terms of many different things. You know, there is this perception out there that diversity means gender diversity. It's not just gender, it's a lot more. It's diversity of age, cultural background, physical abilities and disabilities, race, religion, you know, gender, of course, sexual orientation, but also professional qualification, different values and perspectives that each one of us have. And that's what, for me, is important to understand in our organization, working across very different cultures. I think I have people from 24 nations in Humanize. And so what we try to do here is to really understand diversity is a necessity. It's not just because you have to tick a box in terms of compliance, but it's really a strength for all organizations of all sides and all industries. And as we know, people will still stick to their values. So you can't uniformize these people. So for me, success in that area really means accept people the way they are, accept that they will stick with their values, with their religion, with their background and, you know, caste or whatever, in whatever region of the world you are. If you're in India, you have all these different castes, right? So it's a very, very important element to understand. And so managing this diverse workforce is not easy anywhere in the world, and it will be harder and harder as we become more globalized and more heterogeneous, even more heterogeneous. So for me, really, it just means, to make it kind of pragmatic, it means three things, right? Number one is you have to offer equal opportunities to everyone. Offer equal opportunities to everyone. Number two, you have to establish an ethos of belonging. I want to feel part of this group. Everyone should feel part of my group. And number three, you have to support broad creativity and innovation because everyone is bringing their own creativity. So that would then translate into productivity, efficiency, effectiveness, and you will be more innovative and creative as a company. So to me, those are the key elements that you have to make it real, and it really starts with you.
And do you think there's any specific way that you are trying to stand out from the crowd, or do you just think that you've kind of got D&I together as a whole?
Oh, that's a great question, Francesca. Well, the way we stand out is really everything we do is in our DNA. So the community I have has 24 nations. 50% of the people that I put together when we do different educational awareness activities are women and 50% are men. I want to see the gender, I want to see the background, I want to speak the languages as much as we can, the different languages. So I think we stand out by connecting and providing bridges. And in my case, it's between artificial intelligence and humanities. I don't think there is a second organization in the world right now that really bridges philosophers, anthropologists, neuroscientists, doctors, artists, various people from all areas of the humanities, but these people are researching and working and want to understand what AI is in the broadest sense and then apply it into their areas. And so I think that's really unique, is that by trying to provide those bridges, we basically live diversity every day.
That's amazing. Kate, what does D&I mean to your company?
So I don't actually have a company, like I said. It's an organization, so a nonprofit. And what we basically do is we host a lot of meetups. So for to get some more women and gender minorities interested in data science and machine learning. So we have sort of a very specific goal, right? So machine learning and data science. And the goal of our organization is to get so maybe people think, oh, you know, I don't know, it's data science, machine learning, like it looks a certain way right now, and maybe that's a barrier. And so showing that tech, so being someone who maybe doesn't have like a strictly technical background is not a barrier to entering into this world. So that's what we do. So I mean, it's not I'm not an HR person, but I'm sort of in this community and co-organizing for this community to give a more diverse look to tech. So when people see us, they say, oh, okay, it's not just, you know, tech is diverse, and it's not just, you know, a certain type of people who's working in this environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Anna, would you like to tell everybody what diversity in tech means to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, diversity is also definitely not a metric to strive for. Diversity is about thinking. And we've seen, because my company is hiring people from 12 nationalities and like 3 religions, we are based in different locations. And we've seen the potential and the impact of hiring people with different backgrounds and different experiences. I think that this is especially very important for the tech industry, for the startups, or any other company where innovation or change management is key to success. So for us, diversity really enables people, the diversity of thinking enables people to outthink and outperform the competitors. And we can look into it 2 ways. Like, for example, in the tech industry, diversity enables us to understand and to design for our users. This leads to increased product adoption and therefore increased productivity. And on the other hand, it enables us to hire from the best candidate from a larger pool of talent, which is again about higher efficiency. And this efficiency again leads to higher revenue. We are a profit organization, so I kind of speak about it. So for us, diversity is this. Diversity is innovation and creative solutions, because it is less likely if you hire people with similar backgrounds who are shaped in the same universities or who have similar life experiences, it is less likely that they will have different approach to the problems and to the solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'd be really great to understand what each one of you think is really important. What's the most important thing about having a diverse and inclusive workforce?
The importance, why we should have it?
Exactly. So what is the most important thing that you can think of as why a diverse and inclusive workforce is important to your company?
Yeah, I guess at the most basic level, and Anna did a great explanation on that as well, is really driving improved productivity, innovation, creativity because of the heterogeneousness of your workforce. So, you know, it does lead also to more happiness and well-being in the workspace if we can really be all-inclusive. And so as you look at how the world is really becoming a global village due to this globalization, to the massive movements of people, you know, most people would love to work and live at least temporarily in other parts of the world. So because they know that that is basically what's broadening up people's horizons, and that drives that innovation, productivity, and creativity. You know, if you go into this interdependent global economy. So just to give you an example, you know, an American person loves driving a car designed in Germany, right? But that car, I'm not naming big company names right now, but as you know, that car was assembled in Mexico. So the design was made in Germany, the car was assembled in Mexico, the components were made in the United States and Japan, and they are fabricated out of Korean steel and maybe rubber from Malaysia. There you are. And that's all in one car, right? So really, your car is likely more diverse than your organization right now, unless you are a global corporation who has multiple, resources. So in order to survive in this type of competitive world, because that also means competitiveness, right? Every company needs to hire an effective and an efficient workforce. And that is basically the core of it, because that workforce, if it is diverse, then it can handle a competitive environment like that. And so capital and physical resources, by all means, just them, it's not enough. You can't improve efficiency and contribute to an increased rate of return on investment just because you have more capital. You need the right type of human resources. And that's only done by humans, it's not done by robots, not done by automation. And so the happier you can make your human workforce, the better their impact will be. And that's where the whole diversity topic needs to go and goes more and more. It has to be lived by example, and that really makes the whole difference into how you drive that productivity is by being respectful to everyone.
I think another thing that's really important that so I can speak from my personal experience as an American who's working in Europe now. Having a diverse and inclusive workforce really allows you to gain perspective on. So for example, if you're doing product development, it allows you to gain perspective on, who your users are. Because for example, I don't know, after living here for a little while, I know now a little bit more about what, a Swiss person or a French person or a German person sort of expects. But it really helps when you have so I'm working on a global or a European project right now. And so things that I think oh, okay, this was, a typical Swiss user is going to want this, and this, but then, the French partners jump in, they say, okay, but French people expect this and this. So it really having this diverse and inclusive workforce with people from very diverse backgrounds enables you to build better products that are going to be better for a more diverse set of people.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you 100% here, because for us, if you want to build usable interfaces for our users, we need to understand them. Otherwise, it's simply not possible. And I want to bring one more topic into this discussion. Let me just check my data. Yeah, well, so I read a study recently by Kepler Center. It's an American company, and this data is from American companies, but the tech industry itself loses $16 billion per year due to turnover. And this study actually showed that people who have left the company would have stayed if the company was more inclusive in terms of diversity. So especially for the tech industry, I think that this can be a game changer. First, you need to attract diverse workforce, but then you need to really make sure that you are able to retain it. So one of the things that is really important to us at WeAreDevelopers, and we try to educate the market on it, is that you do not have to limit your talent pool because it's broad. It's already limited because there are not enough developers on the market. And on the other hand, once you manage to attract them, make sure that you spend some time on retaining them.
Exactly. And is there any way that, say, Anna, your company, a specific way that you think your company succeeds in having a diverse workforce that contributes to kind of the success of your company?
Yeah, actually, it's not, it's kind of a mindset. I think that for the first time I worked for a company who really didn't have any, I'm here for 2 years already, and I've never seen KPIs for hiring diverse people within WeAreDevelopers, but we still have this diversity. So I really think it's about the mindset. And I think that we are also privileged by the fact that we sit in Vienna, and it's an international city. So we manage to pick up talent from everywhere because different people live here. We just do not limit ourselves artificially as some companies are doing it, because we know how difficult it is to attract tech talent on the market. And we decided that we will build our processes, recruiting processes, both internally and for our clients, because as I mentioned, we also do recruitment for clients, so that we do not discriminate talent. We hire for the talent. We do not hire because someone is called differently or because of any other reasons. And we also have built our internal hiring platform, we apply some matching algorithms that also allow us to eliminate the bias during the sourcing phase. So this is also something that helps. I know that there is a bias in the heads of the recruiters. If you see John Smith and Jane Smith, you will probably go for John Smith. I don't know. If you see Indian name and an Austrian name, well, there is definitely a bias. We need to overcome it either via processes or via the technology, I think, when it comes to sourcing and recruiting. And it is more difficult to overcome it by changing. It takes more time to overcome it by changing the people mindset. There are workshops, I mean, you need to educate your people, but it's really time consuming.
I would add to that maybe just one aspect which I am more and more aware of, which is, you know, now I'm more aware than I was in the past, which is the importance of establishing this kind of very cordial, heartfelt, interpersonal relationships between your employees, right? And so that's when you can see, so for example, both at Google and Microsoft, you make friends for life. You know, your work colleagues, I have friends that are with me, many. And so it depends how you, of course, how you define the word friendship. But really, some of these friends, I have them for over 20 years because of this cordial, warm, heartfelt relationship that we are able to create, even though we work in a high-tech space that is very rational, if you will, and very left brain focused. But I think that's also a key element, you know, to say, you know, by embracing each other cultures. You know, I know when I was living in Seattle, Washington, and the happiest moments were when Indian families invited to parties, you know, because you would eat Indian cooked food at home, which is different from what you have in a restaurant in Munich. Or, you know, we have Malaysian colleagues and friends who, you know, have very different views on life. And so the type of conversations we have, also based on their cultural backgrounds, were just mind-blowing, you know. And so creating this closeness is what this diversity also should have as a result, right? So it's not just about the hard elements of driving productivity, increasing innovation, creativity, but really making friends for life. Because at the end of the day, as we know, we spend so many hours at work, which is why I'm sad right now we only do these things online, but I hope WeAreDevelopers and you guys will be able all to come together in person as well. Nothing trumps more than physical contact as well. So very important to have that as well.
Absolutely. So I really miss hosting our in-person Women in DevOps events. It's a really weird kind of thing that we're just kind of like communicating with each other on a webinar. Like I'm so used to going up to people and being like, hey, you're like, welcome to Women in DevOps. So yeah. in that sense, I completely understand what you're saying. With regards to kind of tech, and you know, that's kind of what we're here to discuss a little bit. How would you say that technology facilitates change in diversity in the workplace?
So I don't want to hijack them, but I really have a very strong opinion on that. So tech is here to provide data. You know, chief HR officers, HR people, because we have this beautiful title on our panel today, you know, how HR can be great. And we know many HR people are fighting with this question right now, is really, you need to have, sorry, I get this meeting is being recorded, continue, right? I hope I'm not going to, yeah. So you need to really have a data-driven approach, to your point, Francesca, about how we can use technology to drive diversity. So you really have to make it a priority. And there are three elements, I think, where you can leverage technology to do just that. One is what we discussed earlier, which is around bias. So how do we reduce unconscious bias through the use of technology? And maybe, you know, there are AI-powered recruiting solutions today that can be trained to perform very objective assessments of skills and competencies, all the talents, but they ignore demographic factors like your gender, your race, your age. There are famous examples, of big companies also in the US that are, the algorithm is sorting out CVs of women. So they fixed it quickly. It's technology, it's made by humans, it has the human bias built in. But as long as we are aware of that and work on that, we can solve it. And so there is an HR-based software company, which is kind of a software as a service platform that helps eliminate that bias in database and resume CV searches, right? So it's not just about skill set matching. They use these algorithms based on the Boyer-Moore string reach, and basically there is this search algorithm that makes possible to identify the candidates you want to, but it's designed in a way that it does not use the name. It doesn't use the name, so it takes out the race, the gender, the sexual orientation, any disability or religion. So the algorithm is combing through your CVs and tries to take out the bias. So that's one way to do it, right? The second way I would say is around the job descriptions. Yes, they are important to basically let candidates know what you expect and set expectations and all that, or ensure compliance, but also you can use AI-powered analytics to help employees identify bias in job descriptions. They exist, again, because they are human-made. So such phrases that tend to be more masculine than feminine. For example, in the German language, we use masculine and feminine. There are endings in our substantives and nouns, which allow you to be all-inclusive. So not in all languages is that possible. Or in some languages, people forget to include both genders, for example, So these software solutions today offer alternate phrases or alternate synonym words or alternate sentences that help recruiters write more inclusive job descriptions. Very simple, very straightforward, but we didn't do it until now, right? And then last point I want to make before I'm shutting up here is around compensation. And so that's very important. There was a huge discussion a couple of years ago around gender disparities in compensation. Also, again, with very large companies, no names right now, but huge companies that I worked for as well, where maybe, subconsciously there was a difference in compensation. And so you can use specific analytics platforms to go again through all the data from multiple sources and provide insights on the compensation and all the benefit patterns of that organization. So for example, do you have pay gaps across your diverse workforce? Do you pay your Indian workers less than your American workers, your female less than your male? And so that's why my point is, you have to have a very data-driven approach, attach real numbers to the diversity discussion. And also I want to make last point, which is very big companies, again, like IBM, Microsoft, Google, they all now hire neurodiverse talents to do very specific tasks. And also there, you have to be very careful on how you use technology to avoid bias. So just, make it dynamic, make it data-driven, and you will be able to tackle through the data-driven approach all the human aspects.
I think that the last point about pay equity is so important. Like having clarity about pay equity when you talk about retention and how to retain a diverse workforce. If I'm, in this workforce and I find out that I have the same skills and the same competences as somebody in the same position, like a similar position as me, but I'm not being paid as much, I'm going to think, oh, my company doesn't value me. My company, doesn't value me as much as this person for whatever reason. Why would I stay in a place that doesn't value me? So having this clarity, like really, the data-driven approach is a really good case for it here, because pay equity and having clarity about pay equity is so important. And then also something just, coming from a different perspective as an American, we don't put pictures on our CVs, nothing like that. A lot of American platforms sort of, they do a really good job at anonymizing the CVs when an HR person goes through and is selecting for different job roles. I haven't really seen that in Europe. I still have to put my picture on my CV, and it's a bit shocking. And so I think using these HR solutions that have been built, and I mean, you were saying that they were selecting out or filtering out female candidates. If they had had a more diverse workforce, maybe building this tool, maybe they would have already realized that there was this bias to select out female candidates. And you do have to be really careful with these solutions. You know, I'm a natural language processing specialist. So when you're looking at language and you see, like, you know, women and men, we do write our CVs differently. We speak differently. Some of our expressions are different. And so when you're using these solutions, I think it's a really great step forward. You still need to be careful about, maybe there are still some biases in the language, for example, where you'll still end up filtering out candidates that are, you know, for whatever reason that the algorithm filtered them out for, that would otherwise be really good candidates for a position. So I think these tools are great. I think anonymizing the CVs and applications is a really good idea. I think we have to be so careful about the filtering process because it can be biased.
Do you think that there are any kind of other ways that HR teams are kind of using certain kind of tools to kind of facilitate D&I within tech space?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think, so again, I don't work in HR, but from what I've seen in the companies that I've worked for in Switzerland, I don't see a lot of, unfortunately, I don't see a lot of technology really being used in the recruitment process, which is definitely something that we need to work on here. But otherwise, I mean, we have different, job boards, and this is the way that technology is used here. People go to LinkedIn when they look for jobs, but I think that there could definitely be a lot more development, at least in Switzerland, for using these HR tools that facilitate us hiring a more inclusive and diverse workforce. There's definitely room for improvement.
I can say that in Europe, technology is used mainly in this pre-selection phase, during the sourcing phase, to eliminate the bias when it comes to a name, to a race, etc. And there are many companies who are using it and who apply it somehow. Some of them apply matching algorithms that eliminates the bias, others AI or machine learning or whatever, and it works. When it comes to the rest, I don't think so. I don't think that there's anything, at least in Europe, that is really in use. What I can say is that for this to be working, you also need to, the technology is one thing, but the human element is also very important. You need to make sure that your HR programs and your benefit plans are aligned in order to support diversity. Because if you're only looking for diverse workforce to hire people, you can attract them, but you need to show them something intervention. You need to show them that, for example, if your benefit plans cover same-sex marriage, you need to just share this outside. You need to align your compensation and benefits plans, and this is how you will drive diversity within the company. But I think that it also starts within the people at your company, because they are the major ambassadors of your company. And we know that in the tech industry, a big portion of all the jobs are filled in thanks to referrals. So if you educate people on diversity and to be inclusive and to accept the differences, to embrace the differences of the people and how important it is, you will have your ambassadors and you will have your recruiters internally already built.
And do you think there's like any specific way that when hiring managers or your HR team are kind of interviewing people, there's any kind of process to ensure that it's supportive of diverse candidates?
There are different processes. My opinion is that they are not really developed across the companies, at least in the DACH region. People are hiring diverse workforce as if they're hiring other people. This is my opinion. So if you know that changing your job or accepting a job offer for you as a woman, it is more important to focus on the learning opportunities, for example, because we did some research across developers, and we realized that for women, for example, and for young talent, learning opportunities or ability to have a mentor within the company is very important, and this may make a difference during the interview process. If you start speaking about this and you outline it during the interview, it's already a step ahead. I mean, we know that developers are into several opportunities at the same time, and if this person receives 2 job offers, maybe she will think about your offer because you already give her a sign that your culture is inclusive. If you invite, for example, people from the team together with the hiring manager during the second interview, you already give her the opportunity to see the team and to make more informed decisions based on what this person is seeing. I'm not only talking about women and men, actually, it's about any type of workforce. So you need to know what type of talent you're looking for, and to make sure that you also touch the point that this talent is interested in during the interview, but it should also be incorporated into your HR policies. And you also need to make sure that you do not discriminate by creating your diversity policies and benefit plans. You also do not have to discriminate the other people, because very often companies are offering benefits that are kind of women focused, but men also have families and they also have kids. Why shouldn't we just make it more inclusive? I think that there is a long way to go when it comes to the tech industry and when it comes to the companies in Europe in this direction.
I don't know if anybody else has anything to add with regards to kind of maybe, for example, Kate, you want to add something about how when you were like joining, kind of like coming into the industry that you're coming into now, and that kind of your role now, that you kind of, the interview process kind of was supportive of diverse candidates and really understood what you were about?
I don't think that it was supportive of diverse candidates. I think that there is a very long way to go here, which is why I'm part of this organization in the first place, to really support women in this process. When I was interviewing for different jobs, so before I started this PhD, I worked in industry. I was a data scientist. And I ended up working for a company where, so my direct supervisor was a woman. Because she, didn't ask me any questions or make me feel like, or she made me feel like the company was an inclusive and diverse company, even if the whole company wasn't. It was really her team that I was like, okay, this is somewhere where I can work. It's not going to be a problem, that I'm a woman. It's not going to be I'll have the same responsibility as my male colleagues, and I'll be given the same opportunities as my male colleagues. And that was not the case everywhere that I interviewed when I was, looking for jobs in Switzerland. So I think having just, in my previous interviewing experience, having female visibility was really important to me, because it can be very daunting if through your whole interview process, the only people that you have contact with are men. You think, okay, is this company really diverse? Am I going to be the token female in my team? That was very important to me when I started. Also because coming from the US, it was very different, diversity and inclusion have been important in the US for a really long time. And I think maybe this country is a bit behind, but I mean, also working on it. I see more and more women in tech being hired. So it is changing, thankfully. But that was my experience, was having, I was really looking for a team where I would, there was equality and it was diverse, and I knew that I was going to be treated the same as everyone else.
Absolutely. So you've kind of had that contrast between the US and Switzerland. Is there any it'd be really great to understand that, if there's any differences in the way you kind of were hired for your previous role in comparison to now?
Well, I left the US quite some time ago. It's been 8 years. That was quite different then, but we have these anonymized CVs already for quite some time in the US. And so for like I said before, putting a photo on my CV with my name, whether I'm single or married, how old I am, all of these things makes discrimination just so it's easy to discriminate when you put all of that information. We have these internal biases. and, we can work on them. But having all of that information there just, enables somebody to look at your CV and say, oh, you're female and you're such and such an age. In Switzerland, unfortunately, the question of having children comes up. So even if people don't ask it directly, they ask it in sort of roundabout way, which shouldn't be the case. And in the US, you would have a major lawsuit filed against you if you did go through that in an interview process. So, I mean, people will sort of, I've heard that, different hiring processes will sort of bring up the, family benefits and then wait to see how you react. And that just shouldn't be part of the process at all. You shouldn't be hiring somebody, if you want a diverse and inclusive workforce, that shouldn't even come into the question. So that was one of the major differences that I saw.
Absolutely. I'm conscious that we would love to go to the audience to ask, to kind of appreciate and understand what the questions that they would like to ask us. But it'd be really kind of, given the current climate, has there anything that has changed your approach to kind of inclusion, but to your, whether it's in your role or kind of people around you, that inclusion has kind of changed within COVID-19 and what those best practices are? It'd be really great to hear that from all of you.
Okay, let me start. I will first speak about WeAreDevelopers, and I have to say that when it comes to diversity, I don't see much of a difference, but when it comes to inclusion, there is, because as I mentioned, we have people sitting in different locations. And now as the whole team is virtual, basically they are kind of more included. I realize that the inclusion is higher because we don't have those small, and it's also something that we miss, but we don't have those small chats in the cafeteria where we also exchange some work-related stuff and then we forget to share it with the people who are online. So for me, this is a major change and I really find it very positive. When it comes to hiring from clients, for example, our recruiting services that we provide to clients, I think that the Corona crisis makes it a little bit more difficult because now candidates are they have difficulties to come to a country where the job is not posted, basically. Because of visa process, because of many other constraints, I think that people are more conscious now. And also the opinion of the partner of the person who is to be hired prevails now. And I think that people nowadays, they make more decisions together within the family. And in the past, they were kind of more flexible to move to a different country.
So one of the good things that I've seen come out of COVID-19, and it's not been a lot, 2020 has been a rough year, but the fact that people, companies are realizing that flexibility is a good thing. And that, working from home doesn't mean that you're working less and you can be just as productive with a very flexible work schedule. And I think that, sort of lends itself very well to having a diverse and inclusive workforce, because before, if you have to have this very strict 9-to-5 schedule all the time, I think that sort of excludes some people from who would otherwise, be a good hire. So I think that's something that I've seen, from my friends and people who also work in tech, is having this very flexible work schedule and working from home as a viable option is really great.
Yeah, and it makes you human, right? I love seeing my colleagues, with a dog on their lap. I have 2 dogs here. I love seeing the background. You can choose not to have a background, but sometimes I want to show you, this is my background right now. So it puts a human face. So in terms of inclusivity, to your point, Anna, and also Kate, it really is a lot more inclusive. We should, to your point, it should be both the positive and not so positive aspects of a crisis, which is what we do right now, go through right now, is that you have to learn out of it. And what I see also in more and more happening because of this pandemic is that people are prone and open to learn more and to know more about each other. And so putting this human face into your daily life, I think when we'll go back to the office, we will all be even more inclusive at the end of the day, because I now know how your dog looks like, how your kids look like, or how your house is. And that can also lead to biases. and to judgments, but it also leads, I believe, to a more balanced approach of who you are and a better understanding of the human being behind, the colleague that is usually very professional. So the world will change, and it will become probably more, I believe, more. The world is now. I'm mixing German and English, so the world will become certainly more understandable to each other, and that is a great factor to drive more inclusivity.
So before I kind of switch over to some questions from our audience, is there, across each of your companies, it would be really great to understand if there's like a clear, like, how do you continue striving and developing that kind of clear and inclusive culture in the workspace?
Just do it, right? I mean, we are continuing on the path, having conversations like this to drive awareness, making sure that people really ask the right questions, or at least ask questions. They might sometimes be maybe not the right questions, but just exchanges like this, asking questions and continuing what we do. We are on a good path. I've been working in this industry for a long time, been the only woman in the room for many, many years. And so I never felt really discriminated in any way. Also because the environments I was were pretty diverse by design. We were people from all over the world. I did like in the car example, where people from different backgrounds. But on the other side, it's more of a, how do we evolve from here? And that means active listening, active seeing. Hearing doesn't mean listening. We need to really observe, not just see, and we need to listen, not just hear, and that will drive this conversation to the next level. Also, we shouldn't overestimate some of these things. At the end of the day, I believe I don't want to be reduced to my gender. I don't want to be reduced to my culture, to my language, to any of these. I want to be the whole human being that I am, and not parts of it. So that's also another aspect where we have to really take the human as a whole.
Is there anything anybody else would like to add before I kind of go into the questions from the audience?
Well, I can add that I don't think that at WeAreDevelopers we will change our approach. As I said, it's more of a mindset that we have built, and it's working well. But I think that we should be more open, and we started already educating the market much more. We speak much more about diversity and inclusion than in the past. First, because of the small talent pool we are working with, but second, because of the current crisis and the benefits a diverse workforce can bring to our clients. So I think that our approach is going to become a bit more externalized now.
Okay, so let's go into our audience questions. So there's a couple of questions that I can see that are coming up on Slido. So specifically for Kate, you kind of mentioned that you're an American in a European country. They really want to understand kind of how that has changed and kind of understand your users.
Understand my users. So yeah, I am an American in a European country. First I lived in France, and now I live in Switzerland. I think, well, I don't have specific, in my PhD work, I do have specific users, that's true. I think that what's my American perspective, and also it's just, I work with a very diverse team. I'm working on an EU project. So my colleagues are from, Germany and Italy and France. And we're also very, it's very balanced between men and women as well. And I think just being, seeing a European perspective and just being able to share, what I know from users in the US, how different people think, how are different, you know, also language and culture is a huge question as well. I've been really happy to be able to share that with my European colleagues, and then also to learn from them as well, because even though, you know, I guess sometimes well, I'm saying that now in a really difficult moment for the US. Although American culture seems accessible to people through, like, you know, TV and films and whatever, there's another aspect that, like, me having grown up in the US, that I can bring to my team that you can't, you know, find online or in a movie or something like that. So I don't know if that exactly answers my question, but the question. But yeah, it's been more about understanding different perspectives, and what I can bring is, you know, it's, I guess, in the context of a European project, it's been helpful to not only what I bring, but also seeing, you know, the perspective from all my European colleagues as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So there was one more question for all of you around how maybe some advice, or, you know, somebody trying to get into the tech industry, or that maybe doesn't have that much experience. How would you encourage that, and how would you kind of ensure that they were like companies that were open-minded to supporting that?
Join my meetup. That's exactly what we're there for. So to support people who are, I mean, it's, you know, specifically for machine learning and data science, but there are plenty of different meetups and communities that foster either new talent or people who are interested in getting into the tech world. We also try to work with companies. We have recruiters that do come to us because we have such a diverse talent pool, and people come to Women in Machine Learning and Data Science, you know, to be part of this community that's really the diverse space of tech. So I would say, you know, join a meetup and participate in the events. The more people you know, the more chances you'll have of finding your path in the tech world as well. I mean, that's what I did, and now I see lots of other women and gender minorities doing the same. I think it's a really good path, especially if you don't have a lot of experience in tech.
Is there kind of any other, before, I know we're kind of running out of time, is there any other advice or kind of support that any of you would like to add to how we continue to support diverse and inclusive workforces? I don't, Anna, Nancy, if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, sure. So I would say, really, look, I mean, I love the rule of three, right? So number one, I think we need to continue to think critically. That's how you support diversity. That's how you support innovation. So please don't take anything at face value. Be curious, ask questions, believe in trial and error. Yes, we made errors. It's just human. Bias will continue to exist as long as humanity exists. AI will have to deal with that issue. Machine learning, as you know, Kate knows, you know, you have to test and experiment before making these decisions. So number one, think critically. Number two, I would say, I love being pushy, right? So, okay, so pushy, you can call it energy. I don't know what you can call it, but it's, you know, even in this hyped technology of artificial intelligence today, it's all about pushing the boundaries. We wouldn't have gone to the moon if someone wouldn't push you know, those boundaries. We wouldn't have a Tesla or a Google or a Microsoft or any PC or any of your desktop computers or smartphones if someone wouldn't have been pushing the boundaries. So think science fiction, but let your human creativity free flow, and always look for more. It doesn't mean that's bad. So for more ways of improving your existing systems, for more ideas of how you invent new ways. I love the Nobel Prize right now. You can see, you know, who is getting the Nobel Prize for physics. Yesterday it was amazing, right? Or for medicine. So please invent more ideas for inventing new ways, and that's how we, you know, make things work. And so the third one for me, which is at the basis of who I am today, I think it's resilience. And you can have a very long conversation about that, but I believe being resilient for me means do not get easily overwhelmed. it means understand the world. Let's say, I mean, I love breaking it down to artificial intelligence right now because it's so highly technical, you know. It's new, it's kind of cold water, right? So it can be difficult and it can be mysterious. But please enjoy the process rather than getting frustrated by any of these processes. I don't like the negative stories about AI. I think that's a completely stupid thing. If you know where we are today, you know there will not be general artificial intelligence anytime soon, and I'm happy to talk to Elon Musk about that. You know, for me, it's really you have to love what you do, and in this space, particularly for high tech, we are developers, and you guys, especially for women in tech and your organizations and our organization, you have to love math and science. You have to be able to combine right and left hemisphere. And really to bring the humanity out of this. And so it's not just about engineering. I don't want just engineers to save the world. I want humanities people and STEM people to work together.
Thanks, and I will just add one more thing to your list because I only have one. I've seen a lot of great strategies on paper, diversity strategies on paper. Don't stop there. It doesn't make sense. I mean, know your talent. You better end up with something that is less sophisticated, something simple, but that is working. Position your company within the community that you want to attract from, and make sure that you know your talent so that you don't end up with hiring diversity goals that are not going to happen. That's from me.
Amazing. It's been such a lovely kind of conversation that we've had around how each one of you are kind of supporting D&I within the tech space. So I think that's about all we have time for this morning. I just want to take the time out to thank you and to thank anyone that's kind of tuned in and listened to this. This is one of the first events that we've hosted with WeAreDevelopers. So thank you everybody for welcoming us and enabling us to kind of continue to strive and grow build the awareness of gender imbalance within the tech industry. So obviously I'm one of the co-founders of Women in DevOps. So if you do want to kind of stay in the know with D&I, please do log into www.womenindevops.com and you can kind of follow all of our social media channels and kind of stay in touch with the meetups that we're running to do with D&I within not just the DevOps space, but also tech too. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining us this morning.
Fantastic. Thank you, Francesca. Excellent role you played as moderator. Thank you for being our moderator today. Very big role. And
thank you, ladies.
See you guys, Anna.
Thank you, ladies. Have a great day.
See you guys.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Ciao. Bye.
So, and now I'm back, and actually this is the end of this part of the program. Make sure to come back in the afternoon. Oh my God, is it 2 or 2:30? So until 2:30, time to grab something for lunch, and then we hit the floor running. Until then, have a nice break. Bye bye.